All right, so this month we have been talking about bridging the gap, and today's talk is building the bridge. And in the words of Ernest Holmes, he says, "Let us feel that our purposes are animated and inspired from on high, and then let us go forth and make our dreams come true in human experience." Those are beautiful, inspiring words, aren't they? They are saying, let us feel that our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations have been planted in our hearts by this amazing divine intelligence, and it's there for a reason. Let's know that God can express itself in this world as us, as us. So say this after me. I am here so that God can express itself as me. I am here so that God can express itself as me. Do you believe that? Oh, I know you do. You are such good science of mind students. So let's really know that. And when we talk about really knowing it, it's that we feel it. We embody that. We know that we know that we know. God is living as me. And let's get about God's business then. I love the story about little Jesus, that his parents took him into Jerusalem for Passover. And when the feast was over, his parents headed back to their little town. And Jesus wasn't with them, but they didn't realize that because they thought that he was with the other children that they were traveling with. But when they looked back, they couldn't find him anywhere. So they turned around and they went back. They looked all over the city for 3 days. Parents, can you imagine what that would be like? And where they found him was in a temple, and he was sitting there with the teachers, listening to them, asking questions, and conversing with them. And when she saw him, Mary ran up to Jesus, and I don't really think this is what she said, but I don't think they could put that in the Bible, but you parents can just imagine what you would say to your little kid if you couldn't find him for 3 days. But Mary said, "My son, why have you done thus so to us?" How ridiculous is that? "Behold, your father and I have been looking for you with much anxiety." Okay. I really hadn't planned on making fun of the Bible, but that's pretty funny, isn't it? I mean, yeah. I just don't think she said that. I just don't believe that. But anyway, his answer was profound. He said, "Why were you looking for me? Didn't you know that I would be about my Father's business?" Now, Mary didn't get it at that time, but we understand that now. And so we too must be about this infinite, divine, intelligent, loving Mother, Father, God's business. That's what is ours to do here in this life. Or to paraphrase Holmes, we must be about making our dreams come true in human experience. Now, you're the only one that can know specifically what that means. You're the only one that can say with full authority what that call is that's upon your heart that was placed there by the divine that is yours to do in this life. But whatever that happens to be, it is a part of who you are and part of what your purpose is in this life. Now, what you do, you can't control the call, but what you decide to do with that call is completely up to you. You can repress it and just not admit that it exists. You can daydream about it. You can say you want it all day long while you hang on for dear life at the edge of the cliff, or you can go for it, which requires bridging the gap, and that's an acronym for the grand adventure in purpose, and isn't it that, between incubating the idea and actually manifesting the full dream. So this month, we're bridging the gap, and we're going to be looking at the idea of actually what it takes to build that bridge. But often when we take that leap of faith that Michael talked about the first week of this month, we don't even see the bridge. Do you remember the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with Harrison Ford? So he was Indiana Jones, and he had this big dream, and it was to find the Holy Grail. Now, some of us actually have that dream, right? We're trying to find that enlightenment, that spiritual awakening, that Holy Grail. And he had been on this grand adventure in purpose. He'd been living in the gap for the bulk of the movie, but now he was getting really close to his dream, but no cigar quite yet. In fact, he finds himself faced with this big chasm, which is it? Chasm. What? Chasm, okay, chasm, that he has to get across. Now, literally, if he doesn't get across it, it's not only that he's not going to find the Holy Grail, but the bad guys that have been chasing him are going to get him and take him over. Do you remember that scene? So he steps out into the void, and the bridge appears. And as he takes another step, more of the bridge appears, and step by step, he walks to the other side. And as the cameras pan back, you can see that the bridge was always there all along, but the clouds and the light and everything had created like an optical illusion so that he couldn't see it, and neither could we as the audience. So today and next week, we're going to look and explore at the tools that it takes to build the bridge, but actually it's the tools that will help us see that the bridge is already there. Okay? So here's the first one, and that is to cultivate the open moment. So the open moment is when we deliberately choose to open just the tiniest corner of our minds to the possibility that things can work out the way that we actually want them to. Yes. It's the moment when perhaps, just perhaps, better than what we've imagined can actually occur. Good and more good is mine. The open moment is the willingness to believe in possibilities, like that beautiful meditation, even when we're feeling hopeless and discouraged. Especially then. Oh. So, again, it's like those words are so rich. Just listen with your heart. The open moment is the moment when we deliberately choose. So we have to choose to open our minds to the possibility that things can actually, that this stuff actually works. It's the moment when we can accept that not only can it work the way that we want it to, but it can be even better than that. It's the willingness to believe in these infinite possibilities even when we're feeling hopeless and discouraged. Possibilities are always there, right here, available to us, right on the other side of the boundary, outside our comfort zone. You know, it's like, boy, it's like, we want to be comfortable, don't we? We just, and we pay a price for that. You know, so we got to be willing to know that there's something just outside, beyond that edge. We have to make that deliberate choice to search, to look, be willing to find, and when we do, they'll appear to us. So what has to happen is we have to be willing to see it before we actually see it, right? So you have to have that sort of picture in your mind of what it is you want and really see that and believe that. And then you get to actually see it. If we're ever going to become the person who's capable of living our dreams, we must nurture in ourselves that open moment, the willingness to shift the way that we look at things. So are you feeling stuck or helpless or powerless, thinking that your dream can't happen? What if you would be willing to believe that it is possible? Doesn't that kind of feel kind of good? Or what if you could believe that like really impossible things could happen? I love Alice in Wonderland, that little scene with the little girl, and she says to the queen that there's just no use in trying. One cannot believe impossible things. And the queen says, I dare say you have not had much practice. Why, when I was your age, sometimes I believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. So this is the question I really want you to take into your heart this week and really answer this. What would I see if I were willing to believe that my dreams were possible? What would you see? What would that look like? Some of you have done vision boards and that sort of thing. It's like, let yourself imagine and believe impossible things. That is an open moment, being willing to have an answer come to you that when you believe it, it will come. There was a book called Successfully Mid-Air, and it says this: possibility and potential exist right here and right now. It's as if they're holding their breath, just waiting for you to focus on them so that they can live their purpose, which is to become. The open moment's purpose is simply to open the tiniest crack in the wall that stands between I can't have this dream and here's all the reasons why, and the actual experience of a better life that already exists right in front of you. Open the tiniest corner of your mind to possibility, and your experience of life will never be the same. So our first tool of building this bridge is being willing to have that open moment. And the second one is found in our mental faculties. Now, we've talked about these before. They're the 6 mental faculties that are imagination, perception, memory, will, reason, and intuition. And we're not going to go into those today except for the last one, because it's very important to what I'm speaking about today, which is your intuition. Listening to and following intuition is a huge tool in building this bridge from incubation to the manifestation of your dreams. In that Indiana Jones story, the bridge that appeared, that I shared about, something happened before he took that step. Before he took the step, Indiana Jones was guided internally to believe that if he just stepped out, a bridge would appear. He heard the guidance, but all he could see was that deep, deep cavern. Should he fall into it, he would surely die. He had an amazing dilemma that he must trust that if he stepped out, he would be supported. He knew that his dream, finding that Holy Grail, required trusting that inner voice, and you all know that too. But if it was wrong, he'd die. And then he heard his father's voice saying to him, "You must believe, son. You must believe." And that's all it took for him to have the courage to take that step. And our intuition, our guidance, won't steer us wrong, even if it's in the face of something that seems completely illogical. We call that intuition our inner voice, that still quiet voice. But we have a lot of inner voices, don't we? We've got the critical one, we've got the self-judging one, the self-doubting one, and those voices talk sometimes, right? The committee? So how about calling our intuition or our guidance the voice that loves me? The voice that loves me. Because that conjures up a whole different feeling, doesn't it, than all those other voices? So our intuition is the voice that loves us. And inside every single one of us is a voice that loves us. It's always present, and when we pay attention to it, we can hear it. It's always giving us direction. It's absolutely perfectly signaling out what's going. It's our navigational tool for feeling alive and feeling healthy and our sense of well-being and the ability to live a life fully. Now, many of us have been trained to ignore that voice. We've been taught instead to use our logic. But we know that if we pay more attention to that voice, and that's more in the realm of that heart space, that's more in the realm of, it kind of comes up from here. It's not from the neck up. It kind of, When we hear it and when we listen to it, the more that we do, the clearer, the easier it gets, and the better our life is. Have you found that to be true? When you really are just following that? There's a beautiful passage about intuition in The Alchemist, which is a fable about following your dreams. And it says this, that the boy was beginning to understand that intuition is really a sudden immersion into the soul, into the universal current of life, where the histories of all people are connected, and we're able to know everything because it's all written there. So intuition is a deep dive into the soul. So begin to trust your intuition to light your way, and soon you will be on your way. Let's take that open moment, that beautiful window of opportunity that happens for us, and open up that tiniest part of you that you can believe, that stands between I can't have this, and here's all the reasons why, and that just beautiful manifestation of a life lived better than you ever imagined. And let's listen to and hone our intuition, that voice that loves us, knowing that it would never steer us wrong, and use the open moment and the voice that loves us as navigational tools to bridge our grand adventure in our purpose, in our dreams, who we are and what we came here to do. In The Alchemist, the boy told the alchemist this, and see if you can find that you have said these words within your own psyche. My heart is afraid it will have to suffer. And the alchemist said to him, tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself. That's true, isn't it? And that no heart actually ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams, because every second of that search is a second's encounter with God. Every second of the search is an encounter with God, the boy told his heart. When I have been truly searching for my treasure, every day has been luminous, because I've known that every hour was a part of the dream that I would find it. When I've been truly searching for my treasure, I've discovered things along the way that I never would have seen. had I not had the courage to try things that seemed impossible for a shepherd to achieve. So let's know that every second that we bridge that gap is an encounter with God, with our heart, with our purpose, with what our life is about. And amazing good will come of that. And so I just know this morning that this message is so received in your mind and in your hearts, and you're able to take it and use it in a way that just makes your life expand beyond your wildest dreams. And so it is.
So it is.